Hola. Today, hoy voy a empezar con una pregunta. I'm going to start with a question. How many of you have been asked to follow your passion? Have you ever heard that expression? Raise your hand. Most of you. Well, when people say follow your passion, it sounds like it's romantic, it's easy, it's something that, like a gift that's dropped off, ready at your doorstep. But just like a gift, it has to be unwrapped. And if you look at the word from which passion is derived, which is a Latin word called passio, it actually means suffer, endurance. And in my life, passion has come with a great deal of work. And I learned about it face down on the ice. And that's me. I used to be a skeleton athlete way back in the day. And when you're a skeleton athlete, there's a moment when you're on top of the track, which is carved out of ice. And there's a moment of complete silence. And before you know it, you've got your foot on that starting track. And in moments, your hands are on the sled. Before you know it, you're going 80 miles an hour down that track. You're hitting 5G on the curves. And just in case you don't know what that is, that's kind of like a fighter pilot in action. That's what they're feeling. But if you think about it, you're wearing a little speed suit and a helmet on a little sled with basically no protection. You're going down really fast, and you can't have any doubt. So what you do have is 100% total focus. And it's at that point, before you start, that you say to yourself, am I ready? But the reality is, no one's ever ready, right? So when we talk about passion, people like to say, it's this spark. And it basically is, this romantic spark that, just appears and it lasts forever. And that's basically not what it is. I like to think of it as an engine. And so if you think about an engine works under pressure, it uses fuel, and it moves planes through the sky, trains across the country. It also powers factories. And if you look back at the first industrial revolution, what was interesting about the first industrial revolution is that the use of these engines completely changed society. Think about it. In the first industrial revolution, people moved off farms, and they moved into factories, they moved into cities, they got jobs with hourly wages. In those first 80 years in Grand Britain, it was interesting, the economy increased something from 120 to 240%, depending on what numbers you look at. It's huge. It completely transformed life. So now thinking about this piece of metal that works under pressure and utilizes fuel is similar to our passion. But our passion uses a different fuel. It uses discipline, curiosity, and repetition. And so when you think about passion, you're thinking about this transformative, something as transformative as the engine was in the first industrial revolution, this engine that lives within us and can achieve great things. So I told you it's not a spark, right? Because after the spark, there's doubt, and of course, that interest in getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning isn't there anymore. And it's not just intensity for a moment in time. So basically what it is, it's something that you're curious enough about that it pulls you in and that you stay with it and you continue to apply this disciplined curiosity and continue learning. So what sports teaches us is actually that repetition isn't really punishment. It's basically this journey that we apply our energy to, our fuel to, that helps us develop our talents. And public failure, it's not punishment. In sports, athletes fail all the time. We just watch the Olympics. You have a bad run, you get up and you go again, right? You have a bad game, you go back out in the field and you do it again. And then in terms of progress, as you're going through this, disciplined, process of continuously learning and applying your learning, and then you don't really see a lot of progress, you have to think about the Olympics. A lot of athletes win with just a millisecond of difference between somebody who came in second or third. And that's what life is. So I had an opportunity to learn humility and embarrassment in sports. And so when I was a skeleton athlete, I was a successful skeleton athlete. I had competed in Carnegie World Cup, came in second amongst the women, and then I competed in the U.S. Nationals. It was the first women's U.S. Nationals in March of 1992, came in first. So I knew how to drive down the track. But now I was trying a new sport. So I was trying bobsled. And there was a writer from Car and Driver who was also there. And I had this misfortune of, having a less than fortunate ride. And so there was a brakes person who was assigned to me. And needless to say, bobsled is scary. And so this brakesman decided that he would try to brake in the middle of the run going into the finish curve. Now in bobsled, you can't brake. And the way the mechanism works for braking is that this horizontal bar with sort of little points on it sort of digs into the ice, and it lifts the runners up off the ice. And you can't steer anymore. So there I would go into the finish curve, and since I couldn't steer because it was pulling on the brakes, I would smash into the curve. And so the director of the track was wondering, why is this person who knows how to drive crashing into the final finish curve? Anyway, when he realized what was happening, he took care of it. But it doesn't matter because this public failure stuck. And so he wrote the article, and every time I went up to Lake Placid for a race or practice, this wonderful announcer on the track, whose name was Stan, would scream out over the loudspeaker for all of the people visiting the track to hear and say, "Crash has arrived." It became my nickname. And so this one public failure starts to give you doubt about what you're capable of doing. And so doubt is, first of all, the bruise, that immediately will get better, but the doubt doesn't. And the reason is because doubt is really smart. Doubt gets in your head and it starts saying, these are all the things that could go wrong. It plans it all out. And doubt's friend is fear. So fear says, don't do it, don't go down that hill, right? So what happens when you start having these feelings of doubt, you actually have to kind of dig deep inside of you and try to find that voice that says, I'm going to push off. I'm going to do it anyway. And that's part of the transformation of passion and the journey that changes you. So I am an entrepreneur as well as a former athlete, and I would say that there's a lot of similarities between being an athlete and being an entrepreneur. Obviously, there's the resilience, the coachability, goal setting, the team building, and of course, there's that you keep working and working, and you're going towards a goal. You don't really see any progress, but you just have faith in that process in hopes that it'll actually work. But what's really important is the resilience piece, because anyone who's an entrepreneur will tell you that it's a constant process of pitching to investors, pitching to customers, and you hear no, no, no. But what you do is you take what you've learned and you go back and you apply that so that the next time you go out there, you present it a little better or a little stronger. And so this parallel between athletics and entrepreneurialism is very strong. That resiliency, that ability to get up and shake it off is really important. And so there's this statistic that really stuck with me. Do you know that 94% of the female executives, CEO and C-level executives that Ernst & Young studied claimed to have participated in competitive sports? And the reason why this is interesting is because when you think about what are the skills that competitive sports offers you, your immediate reaction is, oh, they must be very disciplined. But it's not just the discipline. It's that ability to get up when you failed, keep going when things aren't working out, keep pushing ahead. It's like being on that field and losing the game and then returning back to that same field to try to win again the next time. And so what's interesting is that true leadership, true excellence, it doesn't happen in comfort. If I go back to my engine analogy, it's about that pressure, that pressure that you learn to operate under. You apply that fuel until you get to that place that you need to be at. So every chapter in life has its own push-off points. So it might be a new career, it might be some bold new idea that you're trying to go after, a vulnerable conversation that you want to start, or it might be some unreasonable risk that you, of course, in your heart know that you can actually go after. And so the difficult part of each one of these is the fact that that little doubt in your head and its friend fear, they're constantly talking in your head. So nobody ever feels ready. So if you ask them, they're not quite ready yet, but you have to push off. You have to push through. So in life, we're presented with a lot of different tracks, some well-defined, some less defined. And so some tracks are very popular, but of course, they might not align with your goals or your values. There are other tracks that look very interesting, but of course, they might take up a lot of time and not get you anywhere. And then, of course, there is the safe track that doesn't reveal your gifts, doesn't help you find that excellence. And so that's a waste of time as well. And so in choosing your track, you have to realize that the whole track isn't formed in front of you, because as you push off and make that decision to go forward, you start learning. And as you learn, this track starts to take shape, and you make decisions that allow you to move forward towards your final destination. Now, I, of course, am an engineer and an entrepreneur, and I was fortunate enough to be at the MIT Media Lab as a student during the great digital transformation that happened over the course of the last couple of decades. And what's interesting is I had a front row seat to watch how this new confluence of technology offers really, really interesting opportunities. But the one that we have with artificial intelligence is much greater than any one that we've ever seen before. I mean, it's this new industrial revolution that is bigger than all of the previous ones before. And what's interesting is that everybody has the opportunity to learn whatever it is they want to. They can use AI as a tutor. You can build anything that you want to because the tools are available to you. And then you can solve interesting problems. And the world is filled with lots and lots of interesting problems, small problems that have a huge return on investment, even though they might not be so interesting. And there are huge problems out there. So there's great opportunities if you want to follow your passion. Now, the new reality is you don't have to ask anyone for permission because these tools are available to everyone. The biggest risk is not failure or making a fool of yourself for trying. The biggest risk is that you wait and you do nothing. That's even worse. So the barrier is no longer access. The barrier is actually courage. So one of the questions that people often ask is, what is my superpower? As if it should just be obvious and appear. But superpowers aren't obvious. They're very subtle. And so to start with, you have to sort of identify what your superpower is. And the way you do that is that you start looking for patterns. Are people asking me for advice? Are there things that are so interesting to me that I just get pulled into them and I'm constantly learning and pushing myself ahead in them? And then when I identify that, I train it relentlessly. I focus on it. And then I commit to it. Because if you don't commit to it, you're not going to get where you need to go. Because the reality is that following your passion requires a lot of dedication and a lot of work. And some days you have good days, and sometimes you have bad days, but you just have to keep moving forward. Now, as I said, your superpower is not dramatic. It should start with a level of curiosity that pulls you in and keeps you engaged. Discipline will keep you on that track. But passion is the thing that results. It's that journey. It's that journey that reveals your excellence and transforms you. So journey is the gift that you get. This journey is the gift that you get. So, the medal fades quickly. Titles, maybe not so quickly. The applause and the social media likes, they fade too, right? But it's that transformation that changes you, right? So how many people here are going to be graduating or making a career change or doing something really dramatic? So at graduation, there's usually a lot of tears and hugs. And why is that? It's because you're not necessarily thinking, oh, I got this piece of paper today, right? I mean, that's not what's so exciting. What's really exciting is the fact that you're remembering this journey, all the friends you've made, all the things you've learned, the things you've done, the places you've gone. And that's basically what transforms you. That's what makes it so exciting. So if any of you are standing at the top of a track, about to make a big decision, a career change, whatever that decision might make, and you're sitting here thinking to yourself, am I ready? Nobody's ever ready, but you just have to push through and have the courage to push through. And one of the things that I've learned is people will remember the medal that you won. They'll remember that you went to a great university and that you have a great degree. They'll remember that you started a company and you had a great IPO and it was acquired. But you will remember your journey. And that's where life begins. Thanks.